Kushi is an ugly and lonely loser who lost his home in a fire and his deadbeat father along with it. As if things couldn't get worse, he was reduced into becoming a dorm mother for a group of hot misfits, which is a kinder way of calling him their cleaning maid. However, in the midst of all the chaos, the girls shower him with love. Our story begins with Kushi, a boy whose house was burnt down, and instead of taking responsibility for it, his father fled the city like the deadbeat he is and abandoned him to suffer alone. As if being a pathetic loser in school wasn't enough torture, the unfortunate incident turned Kushi into a homeless and hungry street urchin as he began to wander the streets without having a roof over his head or even food to eat. As he lay on the ground very hungry, a hot nerdy girl appeared, claiming to be a researcher, and asked him what he wanted to eat. But Kushi looked up only to be blinded by her plots, and so he told her to spare some water from her wonderland.
What did you say, nigga?
She took him to her house where she fed him, and seeing how he messed up his face with food, she helped him out, telling him to wash up. This made Kushi so nervous that he ran off because she was getting too close. He prepared for his bath, but when he entered he saw several plotless baddies, which got him flustered, so he ran off again. On the other hand, a girl with pink hair called Athena, who also lived in the dorm, had just returned from school, and they both ended up bumping into each other. Kushi fell flat with his head buried under and searching for her golden treasure, which got the girl making happy noises. The other girls were impressed by his technique in digging for treasure, but the girl with the pink hair had a nosebleed so bad as a result of Kushi's treasure hunt that she couldn't get up. Later on, the nerdy girl explained to Kushi about the whole situation and introduced herself as Minoru, a fourth-year student and the interim dorm mother of the goddess dormitory at Seikan Women's University. The other girls introduced themselves as Kiria, a second-year student, Frey, a third-year student, and Serene, who doesn't remember how long she has been in school.
That nigga's tripping.
Kushi introduced himself as well and narrated his pathetic life story to the girls who were sad to hear everything. He went on to tell them that he needed to find a job and then he wanted to go back to school, but he can't do any of these things without having a place to stay. Minoru suggested that he become the mother of the dormitory, where she would give him, in addition to his salary, a place to stay. Kushi quickly accepted the offer, but they still had a problem with Athena, who was in her first year and who didn't like being around boys. So we learned that Athena had spent her entire life away from boys, and in her last dorm, she had a problem with girls bringing their boyfriends into the house. Men make her so uncomfortable that one day she accidentally saw her colleague testing how sharp a guy's sword was in her room, and because of that, she had a nosebleed so intense that she passed out. To avoid all this, they all went to get Athena's permission for Kushi becoming their dorm mom, but she rejected the idea and moved out instead. Kushi felt guilty that his presence led to someone else moving out, so he chased after Athena. He finally caught up with her and told her that he turned down Minoru's proposal to live in the dorm so she could go back to the dorm. On her way back, Athena remembered that Kushi's house was burned down, and she felt ashamed of her selfishness. On the other hand, Kushi is seen on a bench in a park and he falls asleep from exhaustion. Athena found him and carried him back to the dorm with her, but waking up halfway through, he ended up grabbing a handful of her free melons, making the girl pass out from her usual nosebleeds, so he had to carry her back to the dorm instead. He arrived at the dorm and found the girls happily awaiting their return, so he promised them that he would be very good at his new job. The following morning, while doing some cleaning outside, he heard some girls talking badly about the dorm and understood that the girls had a very bad reputation on campus, and even while starting his new job confidently, he saw that most of the girls are dirtier than pigs, but Athena's room was the only one that wasn't completely dirty. He knocked on Minoru's room and she opened the door wearing only a lab coat, giving him a full display of her garden and its forbidden fruits. This made Kushi very nervous, and he asked her to be well dressed the next time. While regretting his life choices in front of Frey's room, she dragged Kushi inside and dressed him for a cosplay and asked him to take new measurements of her body because she was now an XXL baddie who wanted her new cosplay clothes to fit. Despite being embarrassed, Kushi ended up doing it, but they both tripped and Frey fell on him, getting a good feel of little Jonathan. But Minoru interrupts their moment wearing a gas mask and forcing them to leave because of an experiment that went wrong. As a result of this, Kushi scolded the two girls for being walking disasters with no clothes on, and so they both apologized for their behaviors, but he ran away feeling bad for having yelled at them, even though the two were not angry. Remembering that the girls were outside barely wearing anything, Kushi came back with a blanket so they wouldn't get cold, which made them happy. Seeing how much he cared about them, they both hugged him, but Athena walked in on them in a questionable position and fainted. Later that evening, she berated the girls for shamelessly walking around without clothes, despite Kushi being present, and said that she will become the morality police. Using her new tool, she covered any exposed melons, which made Kushi smile as he watched their shenanigans. While trying to sleep that night, Kiria fell into Kushi's room straight from the ceiling and landed with her holy grail slammed into his face for full inspection. She apologized for crashing in and explained to him that she gets too excited after reading romantic mangas that she always ends up destroying things. This convinced Kushi that all the girls weren't just misfits, but they also belonged in a psychiatry ward. She pleaded with Kushi that she wanted to sleep in his room since hers was badly damaged, and he accepted. However, she woke him up again, asking that she hold him the way she holds her brothers, and to Kushi's surprise, she headlocks him like the Incredible Hulk that he almost passed out. Terrified by her crazy strength, he ran away and slept in her room instead, leaving Kiria blushing about how kind he is. As he slept in Kiria's room, Serena walked in and asked him if he would accept to become her servant in exchange for taking care of the damaged room. But Kushi was too deep in sleep that he muttered yes, which resulted in Serena locking lips with him to seal the deal. The next morning, Kushi prepared a delicious breakfast for the girls, and they were all excited to eat something other than takeouts. Out of nowhere, Serena grabbed a spoon and started eating directly from the pot, prompting Kushi to recall someone's lips touching him while he was asleep. However, he scolded her for bad manners and dished out food for everyone at the table. Athena was surprised that Kushi had gotten along with all the girls, even the craziest ones, and wondered how he did it. Suddenly, Minoru suggested that Kushi could take their savings and get something for dinner since he was a good cook. With this, Athena now resolved to find out what witchcraft Kushi used to get the girls trusting him so much, even with their savings, so she volunteered to go grocery shopping with Kushi. He happily accepted, but Minoru wondered if Athena could cope due to her special condition when it involved men. However, Athena stood her ground, determined to go with Kushi. On their way to the grocery store, Athena faced her worst fears, which were men, as she bumped into some and got nosebleeds. Kushi was worried, but she assured him that she had her nose mask and plugs to control the bleeding. After several other obstacles, they successfully purchased the groceries, and Kushi praised Athena for her determination. She got so excited from Kushi's praises that she bumped into some guys, but before she could embarrass herself in public with a nosebleed, Kushi stepped in to save the day, carrying her away to a secluded place. He saw her facial expression and thought she was pissed that he carried her like a sack of potatoes, but Athena told him everything was fine. To his surprise, she requested that he call her Oni-san from then henceforth, and we got to learn that Athena had always wanted a little brother, and constantly getting called Oni-san was kind of a kink for her, as it tickled her fancy and got her making happy noises. After patting Kushi's head like a loyal pet dog, she stood up with her loose grandma gown dropping to the floor. Kushi got a full view of her plots, and in an attempt to hide her embarrassment, she tripped and fell over, slamming her rice cakes on his face, which resulted in her nosebleeds as usual. On their way back to the dorm, Athena appreciated Kushi for being genuinely nice and scolded herself for thinking he got the girls to like him through shady means. Back at the dorm, Kushi prepared a delicious breakfast and served everyone, which they ate happily. Frey and Minoru started feeling adventurous and grabbed Kushi to feed him in their own way, which pissed off Athena. Tired of their immoral gestures, Athena smacked them with her tool and warned everyone to back off from Kushi because he is now her little brother. Hearing this, the other girls circle in, asking Kushi to be their little brother too. The following morning, Kushi proceeded to take care of laundry duty as the dorm mom by going to each of their rooms to take their dirty clothes, when Minoru teased him that she would hand him the panties she was wearing.
I got you, homie!
After doing laundry, he sat down and thought about his plans of going back to school as he missed his friends. Later on, he prepared breakfast for the girls and went to call them down, So he stopped by Atena's room first, but she insisted he called her Onisama before she came out. She came out looking half exposed, which got Kushi flustered, and suddenly Frey grabbed him from behind, squishing his face in between her tatas, calling Kushi a bad boy for getting the hots for Atena. After the girls were done having breakfast, they all decided to have a trial to know who could play the role of an older sister in his life, but they all failed miserably. In the middle of their fun moment, Minoru told everyone that she had a surprise for Kushi since it was Golden Week. Then she announced to everyone that she and Frey had finalized some documents, which will enable Kushi to go back to school. Seeing that this announcement made Kushi very happy, Atena scolded herself for being a pathetic and useless older sister who couldn't even realize that going back to school meant so much to Kushi. The next morning, Kushi arrived at school and looked happy to be back. He went inside and hugged his locker while soaking in the joy of finally having his own locker, but he got kicked back to reality as he was sent flying to the wall by a girl. The girl grabbed him and asked him why he disappeared without any notice, calling him a useless piece of shit. She admitted that she was worried sick about him, but then said she would never be worried about a spineless moron like Kushi before leaving. Kushi was not surprised about the girl's behavior, as she is his childhood friend and classmate, Tsuteya. Meanwhile, Tsuteya walked into a corner and scolded herself for always lying about her true feelings when she's with Kushi. During class, Kushi wondered about how to patch things up with Tsuteya, but the thought of her reaction upon learning that he was a dorm mom to a group of misfits with crazy hobbies made him reconsider. However, he decided to talk to her after classes, but he ended up getting carried away with several people coming to check up on him. He saw Tsuteya walking out of class and rushed to grab her hand so they could talk, but she snapped at him and shook him off. Kushi felt bad for forgetting she had a special condition where she couldn't touch people. Tsuteya sat at the school rooftop to eat her lunch while she scolded herself for being a jerk to Kushi despite knowing his house was burned down. We learned that she has a special condition where she is very sensitive to heat so people can't touch her. She went down memory lane on how she became friends with Kushi after he went extra miles soaking his hand in ice so he could hold her hands while they played. Back to the present, we saw Kushi holding her cheeks, and he apologized to Tsuteya for grabbing her that way earlier, while explaining that he brought ice packs to school because he never forgot about her or her condition, and this lightened up Tsuteya's mood. But he slips up and mentions about the dorm and the girls helping him with the ice. At the school infirmary, where Kushi brought Tsuteya to rest, Kushi explained to Tsuteya about everything, and much to his chagrin, she decided to see things for herself. He tried to stop her from leaving so she could rest, but they tripped and fell with Kushi slightly on top of her. With her cheeks all flustered, Tsuteya grabbed Kushi's hand and placed it on her chest, asking that he waters her garden. But like the bipolar maniac she is, she suddenly snapped again and kicked him away. After school, she followed Kushi home, and as they approached the dorm, they were greeted by an explosion caused by our mad scientist, Minoru, which got her and Frey running out of the dorm with barely any clothes on. Kushi was embarrassed, while Tsuteya looked dumbfounded. Atena returned home from school and was surprised to see Tsuteya and Kushi introduced her as the only normal person in the dorm, which puzzled her as well. The other girls came to greet Tsuteya, but Kushi stopped Frey from touching her, explaining her unique skin condition, but Tsuteya kicked him in return, blaming him for getting too close too. Minoru and Frey both saw through Tsuteya, saying that's her way of expressing her hots for Kushi, but Atena looked clueless. However, they warned her that Tsuteya was going to be a good competition for her, which led to the girls bickering about who was best suited to be Kushi's older sister. Tsuteya interrupts their bickering, demanding to inspect the whole dorm to know if Kushi could live there. Minoru welcomed her to inspect hers first, but the toxic fumes from her room drove them out like insect repellent. Mortified by what she has just seen, Tsuteya talked about stories about a toxic lady of Seikan Women's University circulating in school, which made Atena wonder why it sounded like an urban legend. Frey took her to her room, but her obsession with getting Tsuteya in one of her costumes turned everything into a disaster. Seeing Kushi cry in embarrassment, Atena decided to take Tsuteya to her room next, but she told her it was too normal, which hurt Atena's feelings. However, Kushi praised her for having a neat room which smelled nice, and Atena was happy, but Tsuteya was boiling in anger. Kiria stepped in and took Suteya to her room, and everything was going well till she started punching walls like Tsunade out of excitement after reading a romantic manga. Out of nowhere, Serena shoved a cookie into Suteya's mouth, telling her to chew, but later revealed that it's an expired cookie, which got Suteya so pissed that she resolved to burn down the whole dorm. Later that night, Minoru told everyone that Suteya would be spending the night with them since it was late. With such speed, Suteya picked Atena's room to sleep in for the night. As Atena arranged the futon for Suteya to sleep, she noticed that she was still giving a cold shoulder. She went closer to ask Suteya about Kushi's childhood and what he was like growing up, but Suteya wanted to know the type of relationship they have with Kushi instead. Elsewhere, Kushi was leaving the bathroom after feeling dizzy when he bumped into Kiria. Atena and Suteya heard their scream from a distance, and both rushed down only to come across the duo on the floor in a provocative position. Seeing the two girls looking all flustered, Suteya got pissed and asked what their relationship to Kushi was before leaving. The next morning, Atena and Kiria were acting weird, and Kushi realized that they forgot their lunch, so Frey happily used the opportunity to dress him as a girl to deliver their lunch himself at the women's university. Kushi arrived on campus and caught the eye of all the girls as they found him cute, so he ran while they pursued. Eventually, he was found by Atena, who saved him from being crushed to death by several melons. Seeing that he came all the way to deliver lunch, she thanked him and took him to see Kiria. Atena bumped into Kiria, sending a bucket of water splashing on them, so they went to the locker room to change into dry clothes. They told Kushi he could stay with his back turned the other way, but he was still uncomfortable as he heard Atena making happy noises as Kiria juggled her large melons. They were done changing, but the dress Kiria gave Atena could barely hold her cannons together as they burst through to get some air, sending the buttons flying, and it knocked down Kushi. In an attempt to check on Kushi, Atena got severe nosebleeds after realizing her ripe melons were swinging before him, reading for plucking. Back at the dorm, she suggested that they all go on a vacation that summer to wind off and said Suteya could come along. Everyone seemed excited to hear about the vacation, but to their surprise, Serena walked away looking uninterested, which prompted Kushi to go check on her. It was his first time going into her room, and he was greeted by piles of garbage and a scattered room. Out of nowhere, Serena fell on him, and Kushi asked if she was not interested in the vacation, but she revealed that she had not left the campus before, since she felt more connected to the moon in the area. The girls arrived at the beach and decided to play volleyball, which left Suteya very pissed after she saw that she wasn't of the same melon size as the other girls. As she swam, she wondered if that was what Koshi liked, who was using binoculars to watch them all. However, contrary to what she thought, he was actually using the binoculars to watch over the girls in case of any danger. Looking at Atena, Kushi remembered what had happened earlier, and suddenly a small child accused him of looking at the girls in a strange way. Suteya was upset, as she thought the same way, and while she believed Kushi wasn't interested in looking her way, some little fishes started chasing her until one tried to get in where it shouldn't, and she seemed to be drowning quickly, so Kushi ran to the sea to save his friend, but later on we see it was Kiria who saved Suteya and took her back to the shore. On dry land, Kushi asks Suteya what happened, but she was angry and embarrassed, so she sends him away until the Kiria told her that Kushi was the first to realize that she was in danger and threw himself into the water, even though he didn't know how to swim. Therefore, he begged her to help him save his friend instead. After the girls realized that the Kushi couldn't swim, they said it was cute, but this embarrassed Kushi, so he decided to go get drinks for everyone. Kiria put some ice packs that Kushi had brought on Suteya's face and started talking to the girl, but she was ashamed of herself because the first time they met, she had mistreated Kiria, so she appreciated her for being so kind. Suddenly, Frey interrupted their moment and asked why Suteya kept her hair long if she had problems with the heat, and so she revealed, very embarrassingly, that Kushi had a crush on their preschool teacher, so she tried to imitate her haircut. Frey found this to be very cute and hugged her, making Suteya feel so uncomfortable that she passed out. Atena ran out in search of something cold to help Suteya, and while returning, Kushi saw two boys hitting on Atena, who was already feeling sick, until he appeared to defend her. However, when asked who he was, Atena said he was her younger brother, which made Kushi get angry, so he grabbed her and ran off, but quickly let go of her hand and apologized for touching her. Athena said it was fine because he was different from the other boys, saying that he is like family to her. While taking a bath, Athena remembered what happened, and after that, Suteya appeared to thank her for the trip and said that she felt bad for always being useless to Koshi and always having to be helped by him. In response, Athena said that she also felt that way, and that is why she had scheduled the whole trip. As they were leaving the beach that evening, Suteya was more relieved to think that Athena only liked Kushi as an older sister, but then she turned back and saw him looking gloomy. The next few days, Kushi was acting strange, looking very discouraged and sad, so Minaru and Frey talked about it as they tried to understand the reason, and Frey had an idea of how to help him. So she took him to one of her favorite places, a cosplay studio. As they were getting dressed, Kushi had difficulty wearing his costume, and Frey stepped in to assist, but tried to touch his sausage, which got her kicked out. Later on, they were cosplaying a game where the two were knights and brothers. This was Frey's way of getting Kushi to open up and talk about what was wrong with him. Eventually, Kushi confessed that Athena calling him her younger brother in front of other guys at the beach broke his fragile ego, and he wanted to be treated as a man by the girls instead. In response, Frey gave him some moral lessons and finally hugged him, consoling him so he went back to being cheerful again. The Seiken Women's University organized a campus festival the next day, and Kushi arrived together with Suteya. Frey acted as their guide and took the two to a stall where Minaru is the owner, and had several totally suspicious products, all lined up on the table. She explained that these liquids are the home remedies she makes, but Kushi asked if she was authorized to sell the dangerous products. Suddenly, some girls who were supervising the campus festival showed up, and Minaru ran off with her products like a thief in the night, but accidentally dropped one in Kushi's bag. The next place Frey took them to is a presentation about Serene, where some girls from the university are researching the mysterious moon girl, who seemed ancient in the school because she has been there for like forever. And when they found out that she was at the festival, they all went after her. Afraid they would do something bad to Serene, the trio left to help her, but they ended up seeing several excited students having fun and making happy noises. All of this was Minaru's fault, and one of the girls looking for Serene recognized Kushi, so Frey put the blonde wig on him, and much to Kushi's displeasure, it made her recognize him. With the strange pink mist in the air, all the girls who were there attacked Kushi and Suteya until the all-powerful Moon Queen Serene arrived, and with a lunar laser made everyone return to normal. Because she used too much energy, she fell to the ground, so Koshi took her to the infirmary, while the other two went to get some food for her. Serene told Kushi that physical contact restores her energy much more than food, and the most effective method is kissing. So he remembered the time he dreamt about it and realized that it wasn't actually a dream, so he got nervous. However, Serene revealed that he is not the only servant, and Koshi realized that the girl also did this to the others in the dorm. As she got closer, Kushi thought of Athena and threw himself back. But luckily the girls arrived in time with the snack, and because it has a shape that reminds her of space, the snack pleased Serene. Next, the trio head over to a coffee shop where Athena is working as a maid, and she is trying very hard to keep her nosebleed in check as she is surrounded by men. Meanwhile, Suteya was admiring a maid outfit which caught her attention, and Frey noticed this. Seeing Athena was having problems serving boys, Kushi tried to help, but was stopped by Frey, who told him she could manage on her own. Athena is seen talking to her colleague about Kushi, and the girl suggests that she take a break to spend time with him. In order not to be short on maids, Frey came up with the solution that Suteya takes over since she wanted to try out the outfit so badly. So Athena and Kushi went out together and ended up in a beauty contest where the girls were dressed as boys. Kiria is seen killing it in this area as everyone cheered for her. Feeling thirsty, Kushi drank the strange potion that Minaru had made and got scared of the side effects after realizing what he just drank. While discussing with the two, Kiria invited them to go to a labyrinth, and Kushi was overly excited about it, which made him believe the elixir he took earlier had started working. They arrived at the labyrinth, and Kushi is still super excited, so they enter what seems to be a haunted house, where Kushi acted more childish than ever. After they left the haunted house, Kushi went to question Minaru on the contents of the elixir he took, but she said that she only had water in that vial, which convinced Kushi that acted like an idiot of his own accord. On the other hand, Suteya was doing a good job of stepping on the male customers like trash, and they thanked her as they enjoyed it like the creeps they are. With chaos going on over Serene, the campus festival ends in such a disaster. The next day, Kushi and Athena saw Kiria on the phone talking to her parents, who won tickets to a venue that would only be valid on Christmas Day. But they always organized a party for the dojo kids on that day, so Kiria would have to take care of all of that by herself. Seeing that it would be too much work for Kiria alone, the two volunteered to help her out and agreed to go shopping together on their next day off. On the day they were to join Kiria for Christmas shopping, Kushi ended up bumping into Athena, who just left the bathroom with no clothes on, and she got a nosebleed after she tripped and fell on Kushi. As a result, she was too down to join them shopping, so the other two decided that they would go alone. Suddenly, Minoru appeared and teased Kiria that she was going on a date, which got her embarrassed that she destroyed the door with a punch before running off with Kushi following behind. They arrived at the mall where they found some appetizers for the party, and right after that, they found the decor materials. Kiria saw that several couples were buying things together, and looking at Kushi, she got flustered thinking if they were actually out on a date. After buying everything and having a great time, the two stopped to eat, making it look more like a date. But after hearing a girl say that Kushi and her were cute like siblings, Kiria woke up to reality and started wondering if she was getting jealous of Athena, as she thought that if it were her with Kushi, he wouldn't see her just as an older sister. They went back to shopping and ended up finding a strange costume of a Santa Claus riding a reindeer, and she said that she would have to buy one because as her father isn't around, she would have to take on the role of Santa Claus. But Kushi encouraged her to try women's clothing instead, as she would look good in it as well, which got the two looking so flustered. They returned to the dorm and met Frey for costume advice, and she was too happy to help. She began taking their measurements at that exact moment, and Kushi couldn't escape because the cosplay maniac decided that she would make him a reindeer costume, and after tying him up, she started measuring Kiria while he watched. Kushi was too embarrassed to be in the room with them, so he eventually ran away. On the day they were to leave for the children's Christmas party, Kushi bumped into Athena again, resulting in another nosebleed which stopped her from joining them once more. Luckily, Serene showed up and was convinced to help them, after Kiria bribed her with some moon cookies. Immediately they arrived at the dojo. The children were very excited to see new people and took them to change into training attire. Kiria was their dojo instructor, but when it was Kushi's turn to train, she got embarrassed for being one seam away from him and smacked him to the ground like a sumo wrestler. Later on, one of Kiria's brothers approached Kushi and asked him if he was Kiria's subordinate, since she is usually a boss over delinquents. It got to Serene's turn for training, and a wardrobe malfunction took place, but Kushi rushed in to cover her ex with his tool, which was Athena's favorite thing to do. After they were done training, it was time to decorate the dojo, and reindeer Kushi appeared with some badges to give to the good children. But they were disappointed to see the badges as they wanted their gifts right away, leaving him upset because he spent too much time making them. Seeing that one of the children was isolated from the others, Kushi went to check on her and realized that the girl was sad for thinking that only good kids would get presents and for being the worst student at the dojo. She felt that she didn't deserve to play with others or get a present. Kushi explained to her that it's hard for a dumb person to make new friends and that her social skills won't affect her chances of getting presents. Upon hearing this, she smiled, and the other children showed up because they came to understand that Kushi had put in the effort to make the badges, so they decided to use them. After decorating the dojo, Kiria and Serene appeared in Santa costumes designed by Frey, which got Kushi thoughts running. However, one of the kids was shocked to see Kiria in an amazing thing for the first time, and he ended up doing something good which got him knocked down by Kiria. After receiving their gifts, the kids had fun playing with them and eating snacks. Later on, the little boy appeared again and ordered Kushi to act as a reindeer by carrying the two Santas, Kiria and Serene. However, when she climbed, Kushi felt Serene's amazing things, which got him so flustered that he got to sleep straight after. After the party, Kiria joined Kushi outside to talk, thanking him for everything, but before things could get interesting, Serene interrupted and it started snowing all over the dojo. While cleaning the courtyard the following day at the goddess's dormitory, Kushi was sneezing due to the cold, so Frey and Minoru got the idea to set up a kotatsu, which made Kushi so happy. They all gathered at the table and had fun playing a game of footsies under the table. Meanwhile, to Athena's disappointment, Kushi wanted to study with Tsuteya under the kotatsu. The next morning at school, Kushi invited Tsuteya over but she flared up upon hearing him mention kotatsu, telling him she hated hot things. However, she ended up coming back to the dorm with him, and they both fell asleep while studying. Moments later, Tsuteya woke up to Kushi massaging the walls of her flowery pot, which got her making happy noises, and seeing that Athena caught the whole thing in 3D, she slammed the kotatsu table against Kushi in embarrassment. The following day, while Athena was knitting, Kushi decided to clean all their rooms after waving goodbye to Frey. Kushi was worried that the wild dogs he was living with made so much of a mess that it would take time to clean, but Athena volunteered to help out, so they stopped by Serene's room first, but the door looked like it was ready to explode, and it was jammed. Athena looked through the window and saw Serene hanging by the window, but Kushi cushions her fall with her holy grail stuffing his face. They returned to see green goo coming out of the room, and suddenly Tsuteya appeared for her routine inspection of the dorm. Seeing that Serene's room was a hassle, they headed over to Frey's, and Kushi got nostalgic seeing the costumes the cosplay freak forced him to wear. Now done with cleaning her room, the trio headed over to Minoru's room, but they were shocked to discover Dexter's laboratory hidden in there, but it was neat, so she told him to take out just the trash. Now they went back to Serene's room with full energy and eventually opened Pandora's box, which poured out a lot of things, which Serene insisted weren't garbage. She explained that she gathered items to give them as gifts since she was happy to have them in her life. In an instant, Minoru grabbed a sake, got herself drunk, and eventually dragged Athena into her mess. Meanwhile, Kushi and Tsuteya were arranging magazines in the room, and when he left to get more ropes, the three drunk girls caved in on him. Seeing them in such a provocative position, Tsuteya went Susanoo mode on Kushi. The next day, Kushi asked the girls where they would be spending New Year's Eve, and they all said they'd stay back at the dorm, which made him very happy as he considered them as family and wanted to spend the new year with everyone. In preparation, Minoru asked Athena to go grocery shopping with Kushi as he wanted to cook a delicious meal, but she declined saying she was busy, and we are aware that she is secretly knitting a glove for Kushi as a gift. Kiriya volunteered to go in her place, and so they both left, but she noticed at the store that he was acting strange until he ended up passing out, so she ran to the dorm calling Athena for help. Moments later, Frey ran in to also check on Kushi as she had heard the sad news. She squeezed Kushi in a hug and almost choked him with her tatas, forcing him to open his eyes. Apparently, Kushi came down with a fever, so Minoru explained to the girls that it would require their joint effort to help him get better. Feeling motivated, Frey dressed up as a nurse, and Kiriya started crushing fruits with her hand to make some juice with Serene assisting her. Suddenly, Tsuteya arrived and ran in to also check on Kushi, but when trying to check how high his temperature was, she ended up fainting because of the heat, falling on top of him, and the girls carried her out. Seizing this opportunity, Frey appeared in her provocative nurse costume and held Kushi tightly. But Athena quickly arrived to take her out, followed by Kiriya, who brought a scary-looking concoction for Kushi to drink. Things ended up getting chaotic, and Athena suffered a nosebleed after falling on Kushi with her melons hanging out. Later on, Koshi had a nightmare about the fire that destroyed his old house, and because of this, he woke up very sweaty and decided to go to the bathroom where Frey and Serene were waiting for him, and another fan service scene took place. While running away from the wild girls, Kushi ends up meeting Kiriya in his birthday suit, and out of shock, she hands him an embarrassing outfit to wear. Seeing this, she felt useless, but Kushi pretended to like the outfit and said it was okay, as it would be perfect wearing it to go sweep the patio. So he went outside, but because of the cold, he ended up going back in, where he met another chaotic experience which got him to pass out. Seeing his temperature had gone up, the girls got worried, but Athena took responsibility and said she would stay by his side till he got better. So while Kushi slept, she kept applying cold compress and changing the damp towel as well as his sweaty clothes. Kushi started having nightmares, but Athena held his hands to calm him down as she recalled how they met and the times he was good to her. The next day, Kushi woke up to Athena sleeping beside him, and he was now feeling better, so he went to clean the patio as usual. Athena went to hand him the present she made for him, and he was thrilled and wore them immediately. Seeing that it was New Year's Eve, they decided to go to the market, but this time, all the girls stepped out to join as well. Let us know if you want the second part by commenting Dexter's Laboratory. Also, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. See you guys in the next video.